Hello world, welcome back to Razor RC. Today we're going to be covering a bunch of tips and tricks that can help you put together an RC kit. This is especially helpful if this is your first time building an RC kit. Maybe some pitfalls and traps that you can avoid and make your build go a lot smoother. So I just put together a set of things I think could help. It certainly would have helped me if I had put together my first kit. So right now obviously people are doing a lot of sheltering in place. And so, it's a little bit difficult to get out right now. So what better time than to put together a kit? It's kind of a nice way to let the time go by. Something you can do with your family, of course. If you have kids or whatever, they can help you put together a kit. And it's also something kind of nice and constructive and positive you can do. And when this is all over, you can go ahead and run it. So that'll be pretty fun as well. So I've put together a lot of kits, and yeah, there's just kind of a list of things that I think can help. So the first tip I would suggest is to actually get a really good set of tools. Most kits come with maybe a couple like little Allen wrenches like this. They're not particularly well made and might work for a little while, but putting together a kit is pretty hard on your tools because there's a lot of screws you got to put together. They might come with like a T-wrench, something like this, which is actually not that bad. You could use a T-wrench if you don't have any sort of like small millimeter wrenches, but I highly recommend getting a set of good hex drivers at least, and the sizes you'll generally want for 10 scale kits is a 1.5 millimeter screw. You're going to need that for sure on the pinion, probably some other things, maybe diff gears and stuff like that. The 2 millimeter is the most common size for an RC 10 scale kit, so most of the screws are generally going to be 2 millimeter. There might be some 2.5 millimeters as well. So this little set of MIP hex wrenches is pretty much the nicest set of tools you can get. They last forever. They're made out of like drill blanks or something, so super strong steel. They'll last you longer than the kit itself, and if you're going to stick around this hobby, definitely worth getting these. A little bit on the pricey side, about 30 bucks for a set of 3, but having a good set of tools is just going to make your life a lot easier. And if you ever strip a screw, you'll be super glad you actually were using nice hex drivers instead of really cheap ones that are stripping screws all the time. So that's really useful on the hex driver side. The other thing that's useful is getting a set of nut drivers, and the two most common sizes are going to be 5.5 millimeter nuts. Most of your normal nuts on your kit are going to be that, and then 7 millimeter is the standard hex wheel size. So the wheel nuts that go onto your hexes are generally going to be 7 millimeter. So you don't necessarily have to get that. Most kits come with something like this, a little T-wrench. This will work for a little while, but after a while, generally worth investing in a good set of tools. So number one tool for sure. There's a couple other tools I found useful are these open box wrenches. So these are again in that sort of standard size 5.5 and 7 millimeter, but some of the little nuts and stuff are a lot easier to hold down. Maybe while you're tightening down that nut, you want to hold down that little shock standoff or something like that. Just makes your life a little bit easier. Also walk around it, and probably something you don't normally are going to have in your toolbox. So my next tip is to check what actually comes in the box. Every kit's a little bit different. For example, this TLR22 X4 comes with the body, wheels, wings, shock oils, diff fluids, all that stuff. So for the most part, it's pretty much included, black grease, all that stuff. But some kits do not come with wheels. Actually, a lot of kits don't come with wheels. Associate kits, for example. Some kits don't even come with bodies, which is really weird. For example, the Associate SC6.1 does not come with a body. Some kits don't even come with like shock oils. I think the HB Racing D418 does not come with shock oils. So yeah, every kit's a little bit different. I would recommend checking out the manual. If you can't do that online, then maybe look for an unboxing. I do an unboxing on all my vehicles, so you can kind of see what comes in the box and just kind of see what you might actually need. So definitely get all those things that you might want. Most kits, actually pretty much all kits, don't come with paint either. I do recommend Tamiya paint. I find this just to be kind of the highest quality paint and sticks a lot better. I've tried pretty much all the other paints, and I always kind of come back to Tamiya. It is a little bit more expensive, but in the end, I think it's actually worth paying another extra $1 or $2. Make sure you get the polycarbonate paint. There's also another line, I think lacquer paints or enamel paints or something like that, but definitely want to get the polycarbonate paints for your Lexan body. So yeah, that's my second tip. Okay, third tip is to make sure you apply Loctite to any metal to metal screws that you're actually going to be using. So a lot of these parts nowadays are aluminum. For example, these rear hubs just kind of have this black aluminum piece up top, and then this ball stud just kind of threads right into it there. So you can see you got a metal to metal connection. And so any sort of metal to metal threaded piece like that, you definitely want to use a little bit of Loctite, even on like the little set screws on your pinions, set screws on like these little sway bars, that kind of thing. Definitely use Loctite. And there's a bit of a technique to applying it correctly. So what you want to do is get some kind of motor spray or electric motor cleaner, something like this. Get your little piece of paper towel or whatever, spray some on the paper towel, and then actually get that screw, and then you actually want to clean off the threads of these black oxide pieces, because as you can see, there's just a little bit of machining oil, some grease, whatever on there, and if you got that oil on the screw, it's actually not going to really hold on quite as well with the Loctite. And then with your actual Loctite or thread locker, definitely get the blue stuff. You do not want to get the red or green or purple. And what you do is just basically just apply a little bit onto the tip of the screw there. Let's see if we can do this on camera. Just something like that is like perfect. Plenty of Loctite, and you just thread that in. And yeah, that's just like the perfect amount. So you want to apply it to the tip so that as you're threading it into the aluminum piece, it's kind of just working its way down along the screw and into the rest of the thread. So yeah, just a little bit of tip on how to apply Loctite correctly. A lot of people know you have to use Loctite, but there is a bit of a technique to get it to adhere the best. And the last thing that you want to do is make sure you let it dry. I typically let it dry overnight, and then before I use the vehicle the next day. Tip number 4 is to pick a setup ahead of time and then just double check what extra stuff you might need for that kit. So every kit will come with obviously a kit setup that you build to according to the instructions, but usually they're not the best setup for your particular track or surface or driving style or whatever. If you have some experience, you might know which drivers match the way you like to drive and have a car set up, but definitely double check which one you're going to use. For example, this 22X4, the stock setup is basically a dirt setup, but they also have this recommended carpet setup online that you can download and then get the full setup sheet. And it's actually usually going to have different parts. So maybe it's using different springs. For example, it's got the gold springs in the front, I think the red springs in the rear. It's going to have different shock oils. For example, this is 60 weight. So probably what you're actually going to run on your kit is going to be different than the parts that come in the box. So I would double check what setup you want to run, and then make sure you have all those parts. And it'll just make your life a lot easier rather than having to take the whole car apart and change the diff oils or change the shock oils or springs or whatever, and just kind of save you some time. So I do recommend definitely picking a setup ahead of time and making sure you build it to that setup, which is probably not going to be the kit setup. Tip number 5 is to get a set of shock shaft pliers. So something like this is made by ProTech RC, but Techno makes a set, other brands will make a set. So you're probably wondering, what are shock shaft pliers? And so one of the critical pieces in putting together a kit is that you got to put together the shocks. And as you can see, you usually have some kind of nice smooth chrome finished, or in this case carbonitride coated shock shaft, super smooth, gets you that nice smooth action. But since it's a round smooth piece, it's kind of hard to hold on to that shaft while you're tightening down the actual rod end. So a shock shaft pliers basically are nice round pliers that allow you to grab onto that shock shaft, allow you to take off or put on the shock rod ends without marring the finish. I mean, you could do this with a set of like regular pliers, but generally you're basically going to like scratch up that shock shaft, and it'll eventually cause the shock to leak, or at the minimum just not be quite as smooth. So a set of shock shaft pliers are really, really nice. Not a must-have, but it's kind of hard to do it without a set of these. So definitely recommend getting these. So tip number 6 is a set of stuff for the electronics. Some stuff I recommend if you're going to be soldering your own electronics is, first of all, to get a decent soldering iron, you want something at least 50 watts. This one is 60 watts, and they don't have to be super expensive. Like this one's only $11. It gets the job done. You know, it's not fancy or anything, but if you don't want to spend a lot of money, you could obviously get just something really simple like this. Just get a 50 to 60 watt soldering iron. Definitely need some sort of wire stripper and a set of wire cutters, of course. Some solder itself. Using the 6337 percentage rosin core soldering will make your life a lot easier. I definitely recommend that. The difference between 6337 and like a 6040, so this stuff just dries a lot quicker. It doesn't kind of get into that transition period where it's like half melted, half not melted, and that's usually where you might run into some problems with the solder cracking. You're going to need some kind of battery connectors or battery plugs. I go direct inboard connector, so I run something like this, 5mm bullet plugs. And the last thing that can help is some sort of tool to help you hold the wire while you're actually soldering it in place. So you can use something simple like this. You know, it's called a helping hand or a third hand. That just kind of helps you basically hold the wires while you're actually holding the iron and the solder together at the same time. So just some tips on how to get the electronics done a little bit easier. I actually have a whole video on how to put together the ESC on my 22X4, so that might help you also with some soldering tips. Okay, the next tip is some tools to actually do the body and wing. So most bodies are not cut. Fortunately with the 22X4 it is cut, but most bodies you're actually going to cut out yourself, and you'll need a few tools for that. A set of body scissors helps. I have a straight one and a curved one. You don't have to get both. If I had to pick one of these, I would actually get the curved one, because most bodies have some kind of curve that you have to go around the corners, and it's really hard to do with a straight pair of scissors, whereas the curved ones, in addition to being curved, they actually have kind of a straight portion here at the bottom, so you can still make straight cuts with them as well. So definitely some body scissors to cut that Lexan body. The other thing you want to get is some sort of body reamer like this. So what this tool does is actually make holes. So something like this, where you got a wing and you got to make holes for these little screws to go through. You take that wing and you just kind of like basically kind of drill it out with this thing. It's called a body reamer. You know, a nice sharp one with a good cap is a good idea, because you don't want this bouncing around and breaking that tip. They're not super expensive generally, a few bucks, you know, maybe $5–10, but a good reamer also is definitely necessary to put together the body on your kit. Tip number 8 is to make sure you have a set of knives or flush cutters or something like that. A lot of parts are going to come on part trees like this, where you're actually going to have to cut off these little plastic pieces, and using something like a set of flush cutters allows you to get that nice clean edge, especially something like this, which is like a press fit insert into your ABCD blocks. So getting something like this and then being able to make a nice clean cut and have a nice smooth finish is really, really nice. You can also do it with like a hobby knife. That'll also work as well, generally, and good to have a hobby knife anyways. But yeah, a set of flush cutters will make your life a little bit easier and get you a little more of a professional result. Tip number 9 is to check what gearing you're actually going to run in your kit. So every kit's going to come with a spur gear, but they're not going to come with a pinion gear generally. So you're definitely going to have to figure out what pinion gear to run. And if you're lucky, for example, like this B6.2, they actually have a little bit of a chart here to show you what spur gear and what pinion to run based on what motor you're running. So for example, this kit comes with a 78 tooth and a 72 tooth spur, but maybe you want to run like a 13.5 brushless motor, so you'll need to pick up a 75 tooth spur gear and a 27 tooth pinion gear. Double check what the gearing you need to actually run on your kit is. Make sure you get those ahead of time, because pretty much no kits come with pinion gear, so you'll have to get that. So my final tip is just to have fun, right? Building a kit should be a good experience, something you can do for personal enjoyment. something you can do with your kids and have some fun with it. So don't get too stressed out. If you have questions, just look for help online. You're in no hurry to actually run this thing, so might as well take your time. And the other thing I would recommend is that just kind of assume some parts are going to fall off the table. So I do not recommend building a kit on like a shag carpet or something, because if it rolls off your table and onto the ground, you're just never going to find that little set screw or whatever, and that'll be kind of annoying. So anyways, that's it for some 10 tips on how to put together an RC kit. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Let me know down below if you have any other tips or suggestions. Definitely want to hear some feedback on that. So anyways, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Hit that add notifications button. Look for more videos soon, and thanks for watching.